Welcome to the SPNN Forum. I'm Martin Ludden, Executive Director of the St. Paul Neighborhood Network, and this is one of a series of interviews we're doing with all 17 of St. Paul's district councils. With me today are Howard Miller and Paul Langenfeld, the President and Vice President of the Highland District Council. Gentlemen, welcome to the forum.
Thanks.
Thank you, Martin. Happy to be here.
So let's start the Highland District Council, Highland Neighborhood. What are the geographical boundaries?
Okay, well, it's on the north side, it's almost all Randolph, all the way across to 35E from the river. On the west side, it's the Mississippi River, the south side, Mississippi River, all the way to Crosby Farms, and then 35E on the east side for the most part.
Okay, cool. So you're geographically constrained by the river on several sides. And what's unique about Highland? What does that look like as far as the rest of the city is concerned?
What's unique about Highland? Well, I'm biased, obviously, but I think the location is really unusual with the river on both sides. Yeah. What we love about Highland is the small town atmosphere and the feeling that you can get almost all of your needs met there without having to. I love, I decided to retire to Highland because it's a short walk to doctors, dentists, and everything. So it's like it's like a small town.
Right.
And that's the way most people think of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll add to that, Martin, is that Highland has a tremendous history, a long, long history with St. Paul and to its proximity to Fort Snelling. Yeah. So it was, West 7th Street is also called Fort Road because of Fort Snelling, because the soldiers traveling from there to downtown. And so you've got a lot of history that goes there for almost the longest in the St. Paul, Minneapolis metro area.
Yeah. Well, and then of course there's, when you talk about that history, also former home of the Ford plant. Yes. For, I think, what did they make there originally? Was it Model
21, and they started making Model Ts.
Model Ts, and then eventually the Ranger?
Yes.
Yep.
At the end.
As a tangent, I drive a Ford Ranger, built at that plant, 1999. It's still running.
Yeah.
And the odometer is approaching 520,000 miles.
Wow. So
more than 500,000 miles.
Quality machinery coming out of St. Paul.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what brought you both to district council service?
Well, in my case, it was learning about the function of the district council in development in the neighborhood, the zoning aspect of district councils. They're responsible for putting together a comprehensive plan, which is what people use, the city uses when they're talking about zoning. So a new development was going in across the street. So we heard from the district council, because the district council will be the entity that sends out the notice that the development is going in, and they will invite people from the neighborhood to come in and say their piece. How do you feel about this place? And so that was my first contact with the Highland District Council, was dealing with a 4-story multi-purpose high-density building called the Finn.
Okay. Yep, the Finn. Yep. And so can you talk a little bit, well, and we'll come back, Paul will come back to you. Sure. I just want to hit that real quick, is what's the district council's role there? Do you have veto power, or is it advisory, or how does that work?
It's really advisory, but you'll find, I just saw, we just got a notice today from Ryan. They were applying for a new something or other from the city, and they always mention the district council when they talk about, when they put in their requests. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize this, but there is a comprehensive plan. Each district council drafts its own comprehensive plan, which is supposed to be, includes all of the people, should include all of the people in the district. So they should be emailed, or they should receive a survey or something like that. That goes into the comprehensive plan, and the comprehensive plan is kind of like the yardstick that the city uses to measure. Is this tear down going to be acceptable? What are the design standards and stuff like that? So in that regard, it's rather clear. But we also, when people have unusual things that they're asking for, like variances or conditional use permits, they typically come to the district council's development committee to get that reviewed, and then they will get either the approval or maybe some questions.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's it. That's as far as it goes. It's an advisory thing.
And then you forward that recommendation or not
Yes.
to the city council or to the?
It goes to the city, it goes to the planning commission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Because I think that's part of why we're having these conversations, is
Yeah.
so that people understand better kind of how the district council system works, and that piece is consistent across the city.
Yep.
All the district councils have that role to play. So Paul, what brought you to the district council?
Well, I love the people of Highland, and I've lived there most of my adult life. In my current neighborhood, more than 15 years now. So as I got to know the neighbors in that corner of the Highland Park, I said, I want to be an organizer. I want to do things. They're going to help neighbors get to know neighbors. It's a win-win for everybody. It improves security. It improves your sense of well-being. It improves the sense that somebody's got your back.
Yeah.
So I did that with my corner of Highland, my neighborhood, and it worked great. And it transformed the neighborhood. So I saw the announcement that they were going to run elections. And I said, you know, what I've done in my professional life and with my nonprofit, with the volunteerism, I can bring all of that to the Highland Council. And the great improvements that I saw in my neighborhood, we can take this to the next level and we can expand it. And if it worked in my neighborhood, it can work in all of Highland.
Cool. So the district council in Highland, how is it structured? Do you have grids? What does that look like?
Yes, we have 12 grids.
Okay.
And there is a representative chosen from each grid at the annual meeting. And then we have 6 at-large members who are elected by everyone at the annual meeting. So everyone votes for the at-large members. People from the grids vote for their grid representative.
Right. So if someone wanted to run, do you have any open seats right now?
We have 1 open seat right now, and they would inform, call the executive director, and they would be probably put on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
So when somebody leaves in the middle of the year, which is the case with our open seat, then we try to fill it up quickly without waiting for the annual meeting, which is just once a year.
Right. So you would have a special election for that seat. So then at the annual meeting, is anyone who shows up welcome to run? Is there a process ahead of time that they should engage in? What
Absolutely.
does that look like?
Most people don't recognize this, but all of the people in Highland Park are considered members. So it's a membership organization.
Right.
We are just members of the board of directors. We're not the members.
Right.
So everybody who lives in Highland Park and everybody who works in Highland Park at a Highland Park address is considered a member.
Gotcha.
And so members can come to the annual meeting to vote for their representatives. And what's really critical is anytime we try to change the bylaws that pertain to leadership roles, like the board and stuff like that, those have to be approved by the membership at large. Okay.
Yeah. So is there a threshold you need to meet? Is it just a majority of people at a meeting, or do you have to get a certain number of residents based on the population of the district to make like a bylaw change, for example?
Oh, for the bylaw change? Yeah, you'd have to have a quorum of the membership. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot
Well,
of people.
that's the people who actually come.
Okay.
No, we don't have to have we don't have 7,000 people.
Right. Where can we have this meeting? Thanks for that. And so then are there committees as well?
Yes.
And what are those committees?
There are 3 standing committees, and those are really crucial. There's the Community Development Committee, which does a lot of the zoning reviews and stuff like that. There's the Transportation Committee, which is really important to a lot of people. How do I keep my street crossings safe, when my kids are going to school and stuff like that? How can we slow traffic down? What can we do with that? And then a really critical committee is the Community Engagement Committee.
Okay.
And that's the committee that's responsible for extending the district council into the community,
Right.
and those sort of things.
Gotcha. So in that, especially in community engagement, how are you as members of the board, as members of the leadership team, how are you out and about, and how do you seek input into kind of the day-to-day stuff that you guys are working on?
Sure. Well, I serve on the Community Engagement Committee, and that was the one I really wanted to be on because that's getting me involved with the residents, with people, and what's happened in my neighborhood, bringing it to all of Highland. So with community engagement, we meet once a month and we plan events. We plan opportunities for community members to engage with each other.
Okay.
So we had last month a night that was focused on crime prevention and education. And we had representative from St. Paul Police, their patrol commander, and then we also had the director of the crime prevention unit. And they gave a terrific presentation. Everybody learned something. I learned something. And it made me aware of what's really going on when it comes to crime in Highland, and really this whole side of St. Paul.
Yeah.
What's happening with, let's say, for example, theft of identity and skimmers that will scan your credit card at the gas pumps.
Yep.
And ever since then, when I fill up my tank of gas, I grab that credit card reader and I shake it.
Yep.
Because I learned that these skimmers are just put on with tape or very lightly right over the top of your credit card skimmer. And when you buy the gas, you go through that scanner, your credit card is read then by the pump, and you get your gas,
Right.
unbeknownst to you that your identity has just been stolen. So
Right.
that made a big difference in me.
Yeah.
We also did an event called Highland Together, and it was at one of the Ethiopian restaurants there on West 7th Street, right across from Sibley Manor on the north side. And it was terrific. People from the community came out. A lot of people came in and met people that they wouldn't ordinarily have a chance to meet. So it kind of gets us out of our little corner of Highland, gets you out there, gets you meeting new people, and the food was terrific.
Yeah.
So I plan to be back.
Nice.
I promise you that.
Yeah. So even in your role, you're learning new places and new things about
yes.
about the neighborhood.
That's right.
So what are the hot issues in Highland right now? What are you hearing most from your residents? Kind of what's going on?
Probably the biggest one is the Ford plant, because that's going to have a huge impact on the neighborhood for the next 20 or 30 years.
Yeah.
So Highland District Council has played a very active role. Tony Barranco, who is a business representative of the Ryan Corporation, comes and speaks to the development committee almost every month.
And Ryan is the company that's working on
Ryan is the
Ford-
development
on the
company
Ford
that's going to
development.
be doing all of the contracting work for the Ford side. So that is probably one of our biggest things right now.
And what are you hearing, and what's the role of the district council there?
Well, so for example, we have been, there are stages that people are going through right now.
Yeah.
And the stage that we have just finished up is the AUAR, the
Okay.
Area Utilization Something Review.
Yep.
And that has required feedback from the community again. So there was a meeting in the community, and then the AUAR people called about their comments, and they gave their input about what they wanted or what they were concerned about, and what sort of accommodations Ryan would make to keep the Ford site unintrusive.
Yeah,
That's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
If I can piggyback on that, Howard,
Yeah.
is that the development of the Ford site, nothing like that has ever been done before in the whole Twin Cities. It's going to be massive. Highland has a population of 25,000 people, and that site will have 7,000 people. So it's a one of a kind, and there's no rewind. So we have to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
We have to be very, very careful. We have to make sure that everything is looked at for environmental impact, traffic flow, traffic volume, safety,
Yeah.
to be sure, because we have to do it one time, get it right, answer all the questions, look at all the details, because there's no going back to redo it once it's done.
Yeah.
And
mean,
that
it's-
goes not only to us, but to the environment.
Yeah.
I mean, one of our big concerns was wildlife, because there's a tremendous amount of wildlife along the bluffs.
Right.
I mean, unimaginable, coyotes and stuff like that. So birds, but the Mississippi River is one of the top 3 migration channels in the United States. Birds are going to be coming down, migrating down the Mississippi River, and there's going to be this huge 6-story, 7-story building, commercial center, and everything like that, right there in the middle of this, in the middle of Highland Park, Highland Village, and there's also going to be a water feature there, so birds are going to want to land there, and then they take off and bump into windows, and it can be. So that's just one example of community input.
Right.
Hey, what are you going to do about windows?
Yeah, and that's, so what is that, what mechanisms do you have to kind of bring in that feedback and to make sure that the neighborhood is being heard on some of that stuff?
We submitted 2 additional resolutions after the AUAR
Okay.
Session closed. So those have gone in to the Planning Commission.
Okay, and do you hear those, is that through your committee meetings, or is that public outreach meetings, or like electronic communication?
Because of the
Kinda
time
what's the-
constraints, it was
Yeah.
done in both cases by committees.
Okay.
So the Transportation Committee and the Development Committee submitted resolutions.
Okay, and are those, I mean, so I'm just trying to, like, I know there have been, I live close to the neighborhood, and I know there have been
Yeah.
so many meetings. So kind of, is the district council a convener there, or are you an attendee? Are you both? How does that work?
We help. So, for example, one of the AUAR meetings was held at the community center. But for the most part, it's done by the developer and the city. So they use Gloria Day and locations like that.
Yeah, so you're more in a place to publicize the meeting,
Yes.
go to the meeting, so more of an attendee kind of role to give your feedback.
And one really unusual wrinkle, if I may add before I forget, we played the role of a fiscal agent for a videographer who wanted to do a film about the Ford site. So he made a thing called Made in St. Paul, Stories from the Ford Plant, which was actually produced by TPT.
Cool.
And it is up for a Midwest Regional Emmy Award. So
Nice.
that was our contribution. We served as their fiscal agent, so they could receive money as a nonprofit.
Yep, SPNN has done some of that work as well. Yeah, acting as a fiscal agent. So back telling that story about the quality stuff that's rolled off the line there.
Right.
Yeah, and I remember. I mean, I think I was in grade school when it was kind of when we learned that it was going to be shutting down, and I remember having classmates with parents that were not going to have those jobs anymore.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Lose their livelihood.
Right. So what else? There's the Ford site. Kind of what else? I mean, that's kind of the 800-pound gorilla as far as Highland goes. But there's got to be more.
There are so
happening
many.
as well.
It's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So many things that we do help with. So, for example, there's always concerns about food deserts, and they typically happen in areas where people who don't have much money or many resources.
Yeah.
So what we have been very, very, I think, pretty good about doing is promoting a food shelf down along 7th Street. And there's going to be a garden down there as well, and there's also going to hopefully be a garden on the Ford site. So food. Always important.
Yes.
Getting rid of garbage and recycling is always important too. So this coming Saturday, we're going to be down on Shepherd Road, allowing so all people can pull in, drop off mattresses, electronics, chemicals, all sorts of things that they need to get rid of at a cost. But it makes it possible.
It's not free to get rid of that stuff.
That's right. Exactly.
And that's an annual event. So that'll happen this Saturday, and then a year from this Saturday, and 2 years from this Saturday. So, and I'll add one other thing that we do is we create public art and fund that, and that makes Highland just a better place to live. So it's taking care of the parkways, taking care of this. And so the most recent piece of public art is at the intersection of Cleveland Avenue and Ford Parkway, and it's an artistically pleasing bench it's a rest place, it's an oasis, and with some blue lighting at night in block glass. So it's almost paid for, but not quite. So we're still $1,000 short. So I'll put it out there. Anybody wants to support a piece of art in Highland Park, by all means, contact our office.
Nice, and you can find information there through the Highland District Council website?
That's
Yes.
right.
And what is
It's
that
there,
website?
as well as we will always put stuff in the Villager.
Yep.
So in the Villager, you can always go to the district council page and see what all the district councils
Yeah.
are doing that are in the Villager's area. And I wanted to quickly mention a lot of music we do.
Yeah.
There's music at the pool house. Is that the thing?
Is that the old pool house?
The
Highland
old
Pool
pool
House.
house,
Yeah.
yes.
On Montreal and
There's
Hamlin.
there's jazz in Highland,
Okay.
which takes
Yeah.
place at the intersection of Highland Parkway and Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all kinds of things like that that go on, Highland Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll also put a plug in for Circus Juventus,
yes.
Yeah.
right? It is one of a kind worldwide, and it's right here in Highland.
Yeah.
So I went to one of their shows here in the fall, and I was amazed. And these are children.
Yeah.
And they're doing all these great things that would terrify me, and it's like a high wire act. And
Yeah.
so in my mind, Martin, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, they're kids now, they're teenagers. Look ahead 10 years. The confidence,
Yep.
the skills and abilities, and just the socialization that happens from Circus Juventus. Where are these people going to be?
Yeah.
Let's go 20 years.
Right.
So there's some terrific stuff going on right here in
Yeah.
Highland.
Future leaders of St. Paul coming out of Circus
Oh, I
Juventus.
think so.
Hopefully.
We should
Well,
have them on
they'll
the
have the
forum.
confidence to do anything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So.
So that sounds like a ton of music, some really good entertainment options. You mentioned food. I want to come back real quick to, you mentioned Sibley Plaza. As far as food deserts go, is there still a grocery store in
Yes.
Sibley Plaza?
There
Well,
will
it's-
be.
There will be.
There will
There
be.
will be.
It's
Okay.
coming up. It is going to happen.
Fantastic.
I
They'll be
believe
in
it's a lot. I think
Aldi's.
It's a lot,
Okay.
right? On
It's
Aldi's.
in Aldi's. There's also going to be a Planet Fitness.
Okay.
So exercise, fitness,
Yeah.
all those things are going to make life better,
Yeah.
right? A higher quality of life.
Right.
The Subway is still there. Yarmo Liquors will still be there. The Family Dollar will still be there.
Okay.
And then the tobacco shop. So there's going to be new businesses. There's going to be new development.
Yeah.
It's going to be fresh,
Right.
right? And there are going to be grand openings. So everybody, I'd encourage, come to those grand openings and
Yeah.
see what's happening.
Well, and I think it's easy to forget that Sibley Plaza and that part of West 7th, kind of West 7th and Davern there is
Yeah.
part of Highland.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
part of that neighborhood and part of that ward.
Yeah.
Cool. So for more information, the Highland District Council website is?
Is gotcha. Okay, it's highlanddistrictcouncil.org.
Okay. And you're also on Facebook, I assume,
Yes.
for more information there as well. So, I mean, we talked about a bunch of stuff. Is there anything in particular coming up? You mentioned an annual meeting. When will that be?
The annual meeting is in February. Is that what you said? Or I thought it was in March. It's
Well, the
usually
election last year was April 10.
April.
Okay.
So I think, because we had a huge snowstorm. We had
Yeah,
a blizzard in
right,
April.
of course.
And yet 250 people came out
Wow.
to the public meeting. So that'll be coming up, and it's a ways down the road.
Yeah.
But there are a number of events, council meetings, board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
They're all on the website. So the most up-to-date information is going to be available there.
And do you have a regular meeting cadence? Is it
It's usually the first Thursday of the month, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
And then
First Thursday.
the committee meetings are also pretty regularly scheduled.
okay.
Yeah.
And where do you meet?
We meet at the library community center.
Gotcha. That's a
Yep.
beautiful space.
It is.
Yes.
It is. It's very, very convenient. Our offices are there as well. That's where our staff are
Yeah.
housed. The executive director, Kathy Cariff,
Okay.
and her administrative assistant, Patty Partridge,
Yeah.
are both housed there.
So all this work happens with a paid staff of 2
Yes.
and a volunteer board of ideally 18, if
Many.
not a few more.
Yes.
In a community of volunteers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I'd say, coming to the council meetings, the public is welcome. And in fact, we really encourage it. It's an opportunity for people to get to know their representatives
Yeah.
and talk one-on-one, personally with them.
Right.
It's also an opportunity where we have public comments, and we have time for that. but people can hear kind of the nuts and bolts of what's going on in their community, and without having to just kind of, talk on the sidewalk or in the grocery store.
Right.
Here you're going to get the real McCoy,
Yeah.
and you're going to get exactly what's happening, and you've got a chance to ask questions.
Yeah. Well, Paul, Howard, thank you so much for your time, and thank you
You're
for your
welcome.
service to your community and
Thank
to the
you.
city. You've
Happy.
been watching the SPNN Forum. My guests today were Howard Miller and Paul Langenfeld of the Highland District Council. Stay tuned for more on SPNN Channel 19.